August 23rd, 1692. Children of the Sea. The most impressive aspect of the Underlands is the amazing underground ocean that stretches off into the distance. Looking out over the sea, one can see clouds of glowing energy with colors shifting and passing in and out of view. There is a palpable charge in the air at all times, akin to the charge felt before a great storm in the oceans above ground. The wind is relatively calm, but can change rapidly during periods of the day which correspond to sunrise and sunset on the snowy surface, when thermal changes cause air to be sucked in and out of the caverns. Powerful storms do occur as well when the ether seems to twist and pulse within a vortex of frightening power over the sea, causing massive waves to crash against the shore and waterspouts come ashore and tear apart the earth. Rains from these storms lash those foolish enough to remain exposed to the elements and swell the rivers into deadly torrents. Thunderbolts often strike the trees, setting some dead portions of the forest ablaze. The lightning is also drawn to the golden artifacts on top of the great pyramids within the city. When struck, the artifacts seem to absorb the energy and glow for days afterwards. It was during one of these storms that our expedition took shelter within a temple along the shore of the ancient port ruins. This temple was filled with intricately carved statues of deep-sea creatures, as well as maps of landscape unfamiliar to any in our group. As the storm raged outside, one of the scholars discovered an archway covered in glyphs that had a similar appearance to that piece of arch we had recovered many years back on our first odyssey to this cursed world. Despite my vocal disapproval, one of the scholars walked towards and through the arch, disappearing into nothingness with a flash of light. As I had experienced with this type of artifact before, I assured the rest of the men that the fool had simply transported to another location and that we should follow to keep him out of trouble. We braved the gateway and passed into a structure of a strange golden alloy and stared dumbfounded at the infinite darkness of the deep sea on all sides. Visible through clear crystal windows, glowing gems on the outside of the windows illuminated the exterior so we could see that the structure sat on the sea floor, deep below the water, although the surface was still visible. There was stale but breathable air within the building, and we were able to examine our surroundings in relative peace. Clouds of fish glittered as they passed by the windows, quickly changing direction and parting as larger reptilian fish with long snouts filled with pointed teeth knifed through the shoals to fill their bellies, followed by smaller sharks that cleaned up injured fish as they twitched and sank down in the darkness. The view was mesmerizing, and many of our group were left slack-jawed while staring at this dance of the abyss, only rousing when the arms of some enormous kraken draped across the tunnel. The arms were the thickness of a man and stretched down past our view into the darkness, with round discs that adhered onto the crystal windows, causing them to creak ever so slightly. A faint cracking sound caused everyone to come back to attention, and we quickly made haste into the next chamber of the structure, through a circular door that opened and closed like the center of an eye. Upon entering the second chamber, I was struck by the pristine nature of the building, with little to no corrosion on the walls and clean floors, as if something had been constantly maintaining the facility. The room was furnished in a manner eerily similar to the layout of Dr. Wormwood's laboratory, with benches and table with a number of mechanical devices with glass and crystal containers. There were also strange diagrams inscribed on a golden tablet showing designs I was not familiar with, though certainly they would be of use to Wormwood. The tool used for inscription was a wand of gold and crystal that emitted a bright beam of intense light that burned into the gold tablet with ease. Along one side of the chamber was a set of green crystal slabs levitating over golden pedestals with inscriptions showing seafloor regions that I recognized from my adventures with Wormwood, and some that I did not. These maps included what appeared to be an underwater port for great ships within a cavern of crystal spires and towers. Another map was wholly unrecognizable, having patterns carved in what appeared to be similar swirling ethers in the sky of the Underlands, but with strange, round islands and jagged rocks scattered around a great central vortex. Adjacent to one of the islands in the vortex was an object that was shaped uncomfortably, like the craft shown on the seafloor map. I was able to draw a rough diagram of the maps on a blank golden tablet using the inscription tool before the attack occurred. One of the ragged mercenary soldiers had just activated an iris door on the other side of the chamber, then decided to enter while calling for his comrades to follow. Captain Hawkins ordered them to halt their advance, but they were shouting about shining treasures and could not be snapped out of their gold lust. I saw the captain advance to the doorway and halt there, taken aback by something in the chamber as cries of panic came from the men in the room. Captain Hawkins took a step backwards while ordering the mercenaries to retreat, but had to dodge as the upper torso of one of the men sailed past him and smacked wetly upon the bench next to me. A wave of panic began to take hold of me. Trapped within this underwater tomb with some unstoppable entity, I was able to hold fast and gather as many of the artifacts as my hands could carry before scrambling back towards the entry point of the complex. I turned back to see the captain and one of the remaining mercenaries retreating towards me while firing their muskets through the doorway into the other chamber, the blasts echoing in a deafening cacophony. They then turned and fled to the entry point where I was waiting by the teleportation platform. Right before we stepped onto the platform, I glimpsed something coming through the doorway. A massive, golden automaton with enormous clawed arms covered in gore, turning to aim shoulder weapons that fired searing beams of light. Captain Hawkins and I materialized back in the temple, frantically feeling our limbs to make sure everything was intact. We were the only ones left standing, though.